Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Voice of Transformation, the podcast that is designed to help you become the best version of yourself. So, I'm really excited by the topic of today that we're going to discuss because I believe it's one of the things that is holding so many people back from reaching to their full potential, and that is fear. I know it might be not the first time hearing this word fear, but the fear I'm talking about, this is the fear of failures. This is the fear of not taking the action, or the fear of not like expressing yourself in public because maybe you are much worried about what people are gonna talk about you. And this is the topic that we're gonna talk about today. Before that, of course, my name is Justin, and I am the host of today. And I'm really excited to be joined by the person whom I deeply respect. He was a pastor for so many years, and he's now a mentor. Oh my goodness, I can talk about a lot about him. So let me just give him a chance, introduce about himself, so that maybe for the people who have seen him for the first time, you can know the person who is in the room. Tom, welcome in our studio.
So, Justin, this is such an honor for me to be a part of this podcast. And I so applaud you and your team around this whole idea of bringing resources for transformation.
Thank
It
you.
is so exciting for me to be here. And I have such regard for you as a friend. And we've had some great conversations.
Yes.
I'm a retired pastor. I've been working with young people since I was in college. So it really amounts to over 40 plus years where I've been a part of some kind of church ministry, but so much of it has been around helping support and encourage young adults and young people find their purpose. And I've kind of taken that on as a passion for myself, and so it's a delight to be able to have conversation with you. I might just tell you, my wife Brenda and I have been married for a number of years. I have 3 children,
Oh, wow.
several grandchildren. So I'm an
Oh,
old
my
guy,
goodness.
and so it's nice to be among someone who's so young, and hopefully
Yes.
some of my wisdom can rub off. But I'm also excited about this conversation because I'm going to learn from you and your
Yes.
perspective too.
Yeah. Thank you so much. I remember when we have like the conversation. I don't think you were expecting this.
No, this was unexpected.
Unexpected,
Yeah.
but I'm really glad that you say, yeah, let's just do it.
Yep.
So because I have been with you, working with you in refugee ministry
Yes.
in a church, so I've been seeing the impact. You could talk more about the purpose. You could talk more, like helping people finding about themselves. So I was like, oh wow. So the time we met, I was like, think this is a good chance just to sit with you and have conversation. So Tom, today I want we talk about our fear,
Right.
and how we can overcome fear by faith.
Right.
Because I believe faith it's one of the things that only can overcome our fear. So maybe what do you understand about fear? Yeah, let's
Yeah.
start from there.
So I think when you think about transformation, or you think about even the aspect of finding your purpose and what your calling is, what you want to do with your life, fear is a huge kind of obstacle in that. That idea that kind of can come over you about sort of feeling inadequate, or that you don't have the abilities to do things, or you come up against circumstances that seem a lot bigger than you are. And so I think all those things are forces that kind of can kind of stymie us or kind of keep us in neutral. And so I think it's a great thing that most everybody deals with.
Yep.
No matter where you are in life, fear is an issue that we have to face and overcome. And so I think for me, when I've applied those aspects of fear, my faith is a great way to help me overcome those fears. I still have fears,
Yes.
but I found that over time, my faith helps me to confront them, to walk through them, and to find some solutions so that I don't have to live in it. I don't have to let it be the weight that keeps me from success and moving forward.
Wow, I like what you say that our fear is normal, that everyone has fear, and that's so true. And I don't think like we are trying to say that you have to avoid fear, but there is a way. It's normally come problems when it just rule over your life,
Right.
Because it just block you from reaching. From doing the things that you are supposed to do, from expressing what you're supposed to do, and that's kind of the fear that we're talking about.
Yes.
But fear, everyone have fear, right?
Right. Absolutely. I think about in leadership, people that have been even trained in leadership.
Yes.
They face fears. I'm reminded, in the Bible, you remember the story of Joshua. You probably
Yes.
heard that since you've been a young boy.
Yes.
Well, when he was ready to take over leadership, the word of God came to him and said clearly, "Don't be afraid.
Wow.
Trust in me. I'm going to be with you." But here's someone who had been schooled, who had been prepared to lead the people. But when it came down to actually him taking over that role, the word of God to him was, make sure, now don't be afraid, don't be dismayed, I'm with you. But fear was something that God spoke to him and said, you don't have to deal with that. So that tells me that even a leader like that had some reservations and some fear involved in his life.
Yeah, it's normal. It's normal. Even
Yep.
we are talking about
Yeah.
when we were starting this podcast, I was like, oh wow, I'm feeling somewhat
Yes.
nervous.
Yeah.
And it's something that I've been doing for a while,
Yeah.
but I still, have this fear inside me. But of course, I have to face it.
Yes.
Right? There is no other way to, to deal with it
Yes.
more than just you say that I have to do it.
Absolutely. I think those are some of the things that as I thought about driving up today, I felt the same way. I go, oh man, I'm a little fearful. What if I mess up? I'm in a conversation with a good friend, but at the same time it's like, oh, what if something I say isn't right or whatever. So
Yes.
I face that too. But I think like what you said, I think one of the key things is we just have to admit it. Recognize it, that we have it, to bring it to the surface, and then that way we can begin to confront it and look at it and deal with it, and then begin to face it and move into it.
So maybe to help the people who might, don't have much knowledge about the fear,
Yeah.
because I know like there is type of fear,
Yeah.
which there is this good fear which protects you
Yeah.
from against doing something wrong,
Yeah.
right? And there is also bad fear, which is the one that we are talking about, the one like the fear of trying new things, the fear of taking action, the fear
Yes.
of expressing yourself in public. And those are the fear that we want people to understand. So I'll just try to share with us what is good, what is good fear,
Yeah.
what is bad fear.
Yeah. So when I was younger, I went on a camping trip in California to Yosemite National Park, and we hiked up in this area, and we made our camp. And in the middle of the night, we heard noises outside, and we looked out of the tent, the enclosure we were in, and there was a bear with as close to me as you are to me. Now, in that case, that is a legitimate fear.
Wow.
I need to realize my life is, I need to make sure, I need to move towards safety in this. And so like you said, there are certain fears that are legitimate, that we need to deal with, that when they come up, they come to us, we need to take action on. There's other fears, though, I think, that we kind of are maybe not necessarily, we don't know for sure it's going to happen, but we can kind of inflate those fears and make them bigger than what they
Yes.
should be. And that's where sometimes it's like things like fear of failure or fear of an insecurity,
Yes.
or fears like that, which I think those are the things that debilitate us and keep us from getting to our purpose and to our value. And those are the things I think we can say maybe we shouldn't put as much weight on those,
Yeah.
and we need to learn a strategy on how to work so that we don't let those things paralyze us.
Yeah. So, what are some causes of the fear? I know you have been a pastor,
Yeah,
and it's not something that I can say that is easy. What are some fear that you had
Yeah.
before being a pastor?
You know, there's several of them. One is I think there's a fear of not being good enough.
Oh, wow.
And I think that one can really hold you back. I remember when
Yes.
I decided to go get a doctorate degree in in the educational system, and I was 50 years old. And when I stepped into it, it had been 20 some years since I had been in any kind of formal education. I was older than most of the students, and when I got into that, I kind of what I had to break through was I'm not capable. I'm too old. It's been too long since I've been in school. I can't measure up to all these other students. And so that could have been debilitating. It could have stopped me. It could have made me say, no, I'm not going to do this. It's not worth it. But so that was one of those fears I felt like I had to push through and say, no, if I'm going to reach my goal, if I'm going to be, find my purpose, then I've got to be able to break through those fears. And a lot of those fears were not even like real. I mean, you know what I mean? They were made up in my own head. They became barriers that I put up. They weren't barriers that other people were putting up in front of me.
Wow, I think that is a very good point that you shared, and it just reminds me when I was we were planning to start this podcast. I had this fear of being able to speak in front of the people because it's something that I've never done into my life. But I really love the podcast, and the second fear that I have is to speak in English because it's my second language. And, so I had like this fear that how about maybe if you are in school, just try, go learn, go do. So when you become better in English, that's when maybe you might start, I had also like this fear, you're going to mess up, you're going to do, all this. But and the only thing I can say that's really helped me is a mentor. I had a mentor. I could talk with him every time. Then he just said, there is no better way to fight with fear more than just doing what you are scared of doing.
Yes.
I was like, wow, just start. Yes, today you're going to mess up, go learn, correct it, then just keep moving forward. So, and that's something, so when you talk about that, I was like, oh, yes. And for now, I can say, yes, I have fought with my fear, and now, I didn't let the fear limit myself.
Yes.
So, wow,
that's great. And don't you think too, Justin, that because you face that fear and you push through, when the next challenge comes, you have a little more confidence to say, I'm still a little fearful, but I can look back and see what I have accomplished. And so with that, I'll have the courage to push through at the next level. Have you found that the case?
Yeah. In many cases, because now you are like, you feel now confident. If I have done this, if this problem comes, or if this, comes, now I have the faith of, of pushing myself.
Yes.
Of not letting the fear rule my life.
Right.
Right? So let's now talk about any other causes, because I know like that's the faith that you were able to face. But what do you think there is some of the other causes of the fear that many people they have?
Yeah, I think there's fear of safety.
Yes.
I think people may, particularly in our time of life here, in our country now, There's a fear that, am I going to be safe? Am I going to be able to have my home? Am I going to have enough money? So there's all those kind of issues that I think are impactful on people. I think there's that fear of like feeling secure. Those are factors too that I think are really important. I was going to tell you a story too. I went when I was a few years ago. I was doing some teaching, and I was invited to go teach in Malawi at a Bible school. When I went to prepare there, the man who led the school asked me if I could bring in a large sum of money to help him. It's cash.
Wow.
And so I got on the plane, and I was a little bit hesitant about that.
Yes.
And so I was flying from the U.S. I had a flight to Ethiopia, to Addis Ababa, before I flew to Malawi, and I had to stay overnight in a hostel in Ethiopia. And when I was there, I had to take this bus ride about maybe a half hour, 45 minutes to the hotel.
Yes.
And then I got to the hotel, and this fear came over me.
Wow.
And the fear got so inflated that I was concerned. I thought, oh my goodness, there's going to be somebody come and rob me and take my money and leave me injured. I mean, I had all these fears that kind of flared up inside me that caused me to basically just go into my room and lock it and never come out, never interact with anybody in that hotel while I was there. The next morning I got up, and I prayed a lot. That's the other part of it. That was another kind of antidote to fear, is prayer. So I'm praying, oh God, help me, protect me, whatever. I get on the bus to come back to the airport that morning. And when I got on the bus, there was a young woman there, and she had flashcards, and she was memorizing her Bible verses. And it was just sort of a reminder to me that God was taking care of me, that I was in his hands. I got to the airport. I sat down in the lobby waiting for my flight. I was reading my Bible, and a young man came up to me and said, oh, are you reading your Bible? I said, yes, I'm reading my Bible. I said, I'm headed to Malawi to go teach at a Bible school. He sat by me and said, well, I'm from Uganda, and I'm headed to Kenya to enroll in a Bible school. And so there in that airport lounge, God had put together this man to meet with me. And it just reminded me that in the midst of my fears, God has all these people, in that case, people, but circumstances and resources that he brings around me to help me in the midst of my fears. And so to me, that was a huge lesson, that in the midst of my fear, I'm not having to fight this all by myself. That whatever it is, if it's security or I don't feel good enough or whatever, that God cares about that for me. And he's going to help me to be able to push through the fear.
Oh, wow. That's a very good story. So let's now talk about, I believe, as we are talking about, one of the fear that is holding many people, but most especially young adults, it is like the fear of taking action.
Yeah.
You found you have all this idea, you have all these things that you want to do, but you're just afraid to start. You're just afraid of taking action because you're afraid of you're gonna fail. You're afraid of what people are gonna talk about you.
Right.
So what is your takeaway from that?
Yeah, I think again, we battle, don't we, with inadequacy.
Yeah.
Like you said, you've done this multiple times. You've been successful at it. But yet, in the midst of the camera turning on, all of a sudden we get this sense of, oh no, can I do this? Am I capable of doing this? And so I do feel like that is a general challenge for people and for young adults, for young people sometimes in a culture or in a economy where it's run by older people. It's like, well, where can I ever push in and get started? And I think that one of the things I think is that you have to name it,
Yes.
and then you have to kind of decide what is the fear. In other words, if it's the fear of inadequacy, well, drill down deep and decide like what is the worst thing that could happen if I do this?
Yes.
What is it? What's driving this in me? And I think then bringing that up, and then having someone to talk to or pray about that, I think that's really important, because I think sometimes we can take a fear and then we can magnify it and make it so much bigger than what it really is in reality. And so I think that's a huge thing, is that, so that idea of stepping into something, it's like, well, we can put all these kind of defeating words in our mind that may not even be true, but we've convinced ourselves that this is going to happen.
Yes.
And then that creates even more fear. Do you find that true?
Yeah, I think that is so true, because like many time I think there is even a word that's really said it, that very many people whenever like you found yourself, you are fearing something, or like you are overwhelmed, either you are living in the past or you are much worried about the future. Right? Instead of living in the present.
Yeah.
Like we are now in present, we are just here, but you are just living in the past of the things that's really happened. Of course, you're gonna have fear. Say, I have done this long ago, then it's gonna affect my life.
Yes.
Or you are just worried about the future. What's the future gonna? And we don't have control of all that. We don't have the control of what happened or what will happen. We just have the control of the life that we have today, the presence, and that's what I really believe people should focus on.
Yeah.
So which is
what are you going to
so true.
choose right now?
Yes.
Yeah.
Do you want to keep on living in the past, or do you want to keep on worried about the future, which we don't have control over, or you just want to enjoy the moment?
Yes.
You just want to enjoy the presence of today. So now let's talk about now the faith.
Yeah.
Which I think it's the medicine of fear.
Yeah.
So what in your journey, how has the faith helped you to conquer the faith?
Well, I think like I mentioned, some of those stories, and even in my failures of where I've let fear sort of control my choices, I've looked back on that and I've seen where I've seen God even working in my life, even in those moments. So I think looking back and seeing God's purposes and God's work in me has helped me now. Looking forward, when I face fear, I can look and say, wow, God didn't like saw the limb off. I was out on the limb and he sawed me off and I fell.
Yes.
No, he was there with me to help me. So I feel like the faith, and again, like we talked about, faith is kind of a muscle.
Yes.
So the more that you're someone who works out all the time. If you don't know Justin, he's working out. He's got, so about the discipline of working out, pulling the weights. And I think in the same way, faith, when we do that, it helps us when we face those fears. We've had that exercise that keeps us willing to step forward into the next steps that we have.
Yeah, I love one of the quote that I saw on social media that say that the faith is not the absence of fear.
Right.
But it is the courage, the power to face it.
Yes.
And that's what I can say that differentiate successful people or the people that we normally look at, or the failure. Because the failures, whenever, they were like, oh wow, how am I gonna do this? But, the strongest people say, I am strong enough, I have the faith, I have the courage, I have, all this power to overcome all this fear. So now let's talk about some of the steps or the things
Yeah.
people, maybe the person, they have already understand the fear they have. Now they are just wondering
Yeah.
what should I do next?
Yeah. So I've thought about that. I feel like number one, you just kind of you gotta admit it or bring it to the surface and look at fear kind of in the eyes. You gotta bring it up and decide what it is. And then I think the other side of that is that what is it that you really want to accomplish?
Yes.
If you have purpose for your life, or you want to find purpose for your life and you feel fearful, you have to weigh the fear versus what you really want
Wow.
to see accomplished. And to me, what you really want to see accomplished is the thing that can push me through my fear, because this is important to me. Does that make sense?
Wow. Wow. I think there is so much wisdom into that are the things I think that you're trying to compare. Just say, look up the life that you want, the purpose, the things that you want to achieve, right? And just look up the fear that you have and just try to compare, right? So in many time, you're gonna find the things that you want is more valuable than the fear.
Right.
Then what else? You have just to keep on moving. You have just keep on say, no matter what, I'm just going
Right.
to do it.
And when that fear gets bigger,
Yes.
that's where I think the importance is that we can come and we can pray. There's some great verses in Christian scriptures that talk about how to not put your attention on the fear, but
Yes.
pray to ask God help you with the fear. But I also feel like in addition to that, there's also the surrounding yourself with people. Community. So
Yes.
there's going to be we all face fears, right?
Yeah.
But surrounding ourselves with people that can help us move toward the purpose and not live in the fear is so important. And so it could be where people gather together to worship, and you catch that inspiration and encouragement. And I believe, God's presence in that to help reassure me. And I also think that it's great in a community of people. So that if you want to gather around people that have faith, they have fear, but that they're going to help you transfer your fear into faith.
Yes.
And who are those people in your life that kind of can encourage that for you? I'm sure you have a circle of people that you talked about, mentors,
Yes.
that could help you see your potential and your purpose, and they would say to you, don't let fear get you, Justin.
Yes.
Move forward into faith.
Yeah.
And so I think it's so important, and I think for young adults in particular, to
Yes.
find people that you have time where you can have some of that serious talk. It's great to have a lot of fun and stuff, but to have those moments where you can really talk about expressing your fear, so those people can come around you and say, you can do this with God's help, you can do this. And so there's that level of encouragement, I think, is vitally important for someone who wants to push through fear into faith and to reach their purpose.
Wow, I really love this comment of community, because to be honest, I can say from where I am today, there is a really huge part of being in a community. And many times, this community that we are talking about, sometimes just leaving your comfort zone and go look at another community. Because like when I come to this country, I was like, what is next? Yes, I'm here. But like, how my life gonna look like, right? So do I wanna just stay here, go to school, and that's all? No, but I just have something in my heart that the God was really calling me to do, but I never knew what is that. So the way I can say that I have found my purpose, or I have found that it's just being in a community. So I exposed myself. I went in refugee ministry. I started meeting with new people, American, and was really, really afraid of talking to American
Right.
people, to be honest, because I was like, oh wow, what is gonna, I'm gonna mess up my English, my everything. But I just found the joy. I just found the good people. I just found the people encouraging people, saying,
Yes.
"Oh wow, you are really good at this. You are really
Yes.
good at," and just small thing. And that's where I started like having this faith in me that I can do great things. I can
Yes.
do all these things. So which
And
that's
and those things that you were afraid of
Mm-hmm.
when you got into that community, those things
yes, go down. Yeah,
went
just
down
yeah.
because of the encouragement,
Mhm.
and it wasn't a factor in those relationships. You're probably familiar, and your audience is probably familiar with the idea of an incubator. There's business incubators where there's young professionals who are trying to start businesses, and they'll all meet together and they'll all do some planning and brainstorming, and people will talk and give suggestions and
Yes.
ideas on how they can take their business idea and make it successful. I think that we should create some faith incubators
Yes.
where you get together with 3 or 4 people, and the specific issue would be, what are you afraid of? What is keeping you from succeeding, or keeping you from finding your purpose, or keeping you for whatever? And let the other people around there then become encouragers to help you face your fear, and have your, so that you have this community around you that are cheering for you, that are encouraging you, that are giving you suggestions, so that you don't have to live in the fear, but you can move forward. I think too, in my studies of the scriptures in the Bible,
yes.
it's funny how it seems like Jesus sent people out at least by twos. Living in my fear by myself,
Yes.
that fear can get huge. It can, but if I have another friend or friends, they can help me to normalize that fear. It's still there, but they can help give me suggestions, just like you found people coming around you saying, you can do this. It's possible. And so I feel like that whole idea of community is a great help to build faith. I think you have to choose wisely what community you want to be a part of, because
Yes.
you can also find people around you that will bring negative views to you, that will take you and push you right into your fears. But if there are people that you can find that can help bring that incubator spirit, that's going to help you in a very positive way, that can take you out of your fears into faith.
Wow, I think we actually going to the end of this conversation. But what I really love, like, from this conversation, and which I think, like, I can tell, like, all these people, the first step of overcoming your fear, it's just to name it.
Yep.
Right? To try to understand it. Don't try, to take it away. Don't try to, just to throw it away. Just understand it. Just write it down and say, what am I facing? Is it based on reality?
Yes.
Or it's something that it just, want to take my joy, or something else? So I think that would be a good way now to start.
It's a great way to start.
Yeah.
And then I think beyond that, then once you have that, then that's where, to have the power of God's help and the power of your friends' help, then and then that willingness to not just face it, but fight into, so that you're going to say, I'm not going to let this fear keep me from moving forward in my life.
Tom, I love this word that say, if you believe you can, or if you believe you can't, you are always right.
Yeah, that's
Right?
a great saying. That is so good.
But let's not talk about for those who believe they can, but let's talk about who believe they can't.
Yeah.
So what could you tell, like, these people who say, I'm not good enough to do for this, I'm not, I can't do this, like, what is your advice on that?
I think find a mentor, find someone.
Yes.
Email you. Put a post on the
Email
podcast,
me.
and say, I'm struggling with this. Can you help me? Can you introduce me to somebody? Because I think the hardest thing is if you're trying to face that by yourself, and and you're struggling with it, then find someone that could help you to move forward in it. And I think that that's, again, part of why I believe that there's divine help too. So
Yes.
it's, you can pray, but also in addition to that, find a friend or someone that can help you build a strategy that you can work outside that.
So I'll now try to, paint us the picture for the life, living in faith life,
Yeah.
living the life without fear. So that, I just want people to understand if they are able to overcome the fear,
Yeah.
this is kind of the life they're going to live in.
Yeah. I mean, I think fear's always going to be there.
Yes.
But you can live above the fear.
Mm.
And in that, there's a lot of joy and freedom and opportunities. I think you'd even say, too, with your situation, is that when you push through the fear, that a door is opened for new opportunities, possibilities.
Yes.
We talked about that, faith can move a mountain. Well, sometimes I think to move the mountain, it doesn't all happen just in one moment. It's bit by bit we move toward that. And so we look for the small victories. We may have fear. Well, just by stepping into one thing, you can say, you can celebrate because you've not let fear defeat you. You've stepped into that one win at a time. And that's a great way to defeat fear.
All right. I think that's all that we have today. But before maybe I leave you, what should be from everything that we discussed, what is something that is in your heart from this conversation that you say, you people just take this from this one and just go practice it like every day?
Yeah. I think it'd be name your fear. Realize that God says you don't have to be afraid. You can trust in Him. He'll be with you. And then fight through that fear and look for those small successes and celebrate the successes that you have by trying to overcome that fear, and just let one after another bring those small victories, and then move forward toward your purpose.
Wow. I think if I can give you mine, it is always, if you believe you can or you can't, you are always right. So if I were you, I would just choose to believe in your strength, to believe in yourself. Otherwise, thank you so much for watching this episode. I hope you get a breast. I hope it's going to help you overcome your fear. Otherwise, see you for the next episode. Thank you so much. Tom, we appreciate it.
Thank you.